Hi there. My name is Karina Halasko. I am the editor of the anthology COVID Rebels 2021. And here with me today is one of very gifted poet of ours who will be in the anthology, Henry Arce. Henry, how are you
Yeah,
today?
I'm doing good. Thank you. Hope you're doing as well.
Okay, well, we're very glad to have you part of this anthology. Can you tell me a little bit about where you grew up?
Well, I grew up in an area of Manhattan known as El Barrio or East Harlem. I was born in 1948. And for the balance of my youth, I lived right there at 119th Street and Lexington Avenue.
Oh,
Uh, from there, we moved to the Bronx.
now
And
where were your parents from?
my mother was from Vega Baja, Puerto Rico, and my father was from Rincon, Puerto Rico.
Okay, so you identify as Puerto Rican culture,
Of course.
which is
Of course.
great because Henry is our first Puerto Rican poet in this
Ah,
anthology,
oh,
and you're going to inspire a lot of people.
well, I'm honored. I'm
Yeah,
honored. Thank you.
absolutely. So you grew up in Spanish Harlem
Hmm.
in New York, and
Correct.
where did you go to high school?
I went to high school in the Bronx, school called James Monroe High School.
Hmm.
We went there following my mother's insistence that I go to a academic school rather than how would I say,
Grade school?
a grade school, exactly.
Trade,
Trade,
yeah.
sorry, trade school. And fortunately, I did okay. I didn't do spectacularly, but I was able to get into the City College of New York
Hmm.
following my graduation through a program called SEEK, Search for Education, Elevation, and Knowledge. It was a program for um, minority students who lived in poor neighborhoods who at some point demonstrated some potential. And
Oh,
even if they didn't have a A average, as I had a gentleman's C, they thought I could really handle college work, and I proved them correct.
you know what? It's nice to hear that those programs did help somebody because too often you hear about those programs, oh, they waste money and we shouldn't have them and pull yourself up by the bootstraps. So I'm very glad that we have somebody who benefited from that. And so then what did you do? What did you go to university for? And then what was your first job?
Well, my initial intent was to go for sociology.
Mhm.
But while there, I found a bigger interest in mass communications and broadcast journalism, although that didn't necessarily lead to a job in the field. But it did help me a lot because I had to do a lot of writing and
Mhm.
a lot of reading.
Oh,
And
sure, sure.
ultimately, that really helped me to become what I now find is really my calling in terms of writing. But prior to that, I was basically a public servant working for the city of New York.
Hmm.
After college, I worked for the City University of New York. I worked for the New York City Transit Authority,
Wow.
the New York City Human Resources Administration.
Boy, you helping
Uh,
sit the city, huh?
oh
People like
yes,
you keep it alive.
the New York City School Construction Authority. I worked for the Board of Education. Back then, it was called the Board. Now it's called the Department of Education.
Hmm.
And after that, I worked for a couple of not-for-profits, ultimately getting to the point where I was a little bit cynical and decided to do something with my life that I thought would make better sense. And that was I became a teacher.
Oh.
And that became like the hardest job I ever had because
What did you teach?
I was teaching bilingual education and language arts and literacy,
And what grades?
elementary school, elementary.
Oh, yeah. So the elementary's like what? What good ages is that? Like
Oh,
7 to 12?
5 through, yeah, about 12, 5 to
Yeah.
11, 5
Oh
to 11.
gosh. Okay.
Yeah,
They're not even really
but,
people. They just run around like crazy
uh,
people. They just run
well,
around.
but the other ones, the reason I picked elementary is because they're the ones who still want to learn how to read, who still want to
Okay.
learn how to do math, who still want
That
to,
was, mhm.
they haven't become biased against it. So, and I really enjoyed it. And I continued to do that for as long as I could until unfortunately, I developed cancer. I had lymphoma, and after treatments with chemo, I unfortunately was not able to return to the classroom because within 2 months after I returned, I was back in the hospital. Um,
Oh.
Yeah, one of the kids had a new brother or sister, and that brother or sister developed what's called RSV, respiratory syncytial virus. And I didn't know what I had, neither did the doctors until they performed the scope of my lung, and they found that I had RSV, which is strange. It's really a disease of newborns.
Okay,
And
well,
here I
maybe that's
was,
because you were newborn. What kind
yeah,
of cancer did you have?
lymphoma, follicular cell lymphoma. It was
That's
in
in
my,
the lungs?
oh, no, that's in the blood, all over it was in
Oh,
my bone marrow, and
jeez.
therefore it was all over my body.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I thought it
That
was
is
gonna.
awful. That's, oh my God. A lot of people are going to be able to identify with that. And the writing got you through this. How do you feel now?
I feel fine. I'm in remission. I've been in remission
Oh,
since 2016.
oh my
Um,
God.
I had one reoccurrence of the virus, but of the cancer, but it was only in a local um, um, what do we call these lymph nodes. It
Mhm.
was only a few local lymph nodes, and they were able to treat it with lymphoma. And I also had a bone marrow transplant, and the donor, my doctors still had blood, bone marrow from him, and then they fed me stem cells from that blood. And that was my last treatments that actually cured me. And well, I'm in remission. I always say I'm in
Right, right, right. Wow. Did you ever
donors.
meet your donor? Were you ever curious to meet your donor? I always
I
wondered about that.
was he didn't want to acknowledge.
Okay, but you're curious, right?
Oh, I wrote him a letter, and
Oh, you did.
but I couldn't. They said no response, and
Okay, that's fine. That's
I
fine.
respected that. I respected that. They wanted to do something for
An
the
anonymous
humanity, and they
donation.
did it, and it was anonymous, and they were fine with that. Yeah.
Terrific. Wow. Do you have time to read a poem for us?
Oh, I would love to. I would love to.
What's the title?
The title is Fiesta Friends and the Uninvited Dancer.
Fiesta Friends and the
And
uninvited
dancer.
Fiesta Friends and the uninvited dancer. All right.
Right.
That's good.
6 couples skipping towards that senior expanse, stealing their minds to refresh the fleeting memories. Rejoin together to affirm their accomplishments, large and small, and sharing how to grow from the knowledge of failed efforts. Strong political and ethnic warriors, women and men who rose through the educational challenges to assume so many elevated posts in our communities. We join together at each other's homes, every quarter, another home. We promoted our ongoing efforts to celebrate the culture, replete with the best of our salsa music, the richness of our Puerto Rican culinary delights. We dance with happy energy, with full bellies, and further sated with the juice of the vine. Hector and Sandra, Waldemar and Jackie, Esther and Jules, Orsini and Hilda, Jimmy and Dee, Henry and Nilsa, all professional public servants, teachers, mental health practitioners, administrators, operations managers, medical representatives. And then an uninvited dancer with unknown steps barged into our midst. She first danced with Hector and Sandra. She slew Hector. Sandra survived. She danced with Waldemar and Jackie. She slew Waldemar. Jackie survived. She danced with Jimmy and Dee. She must have missed her step, for both Jimmy and Dee survived. She left the rest of us stunned and in fear, much as the rest of our inner and outer world. We have all closed our doors to this scourge, vaccinated and strengthened against her moves. She is vicious, vile, and does not much care for anyone's wants or desires to arise. We now talk of resuming our familiar gatherings, but there's still a weariness in the air, so long as that uninvited dancer remains nearby.
Wow, I like that. Wow, that is good. That's your COVID piece, right?
That's another piece, correct.
Yeah,
She's the
very
dancer.
nice, very nice. When did you start writing?
When did I start writing?
Mhm.
Back in the middle 2000s, about 2004, 2005. I was already teaching, and actually after that, around 2008, I really started getting down, and I met some friends, by the way. This is a cute story. I met some friends on Facebook, and we never knew each other, but we used to write poems, and ultimately we put together two different anthologies of our own. We had it published. It was only published for us, as it were. I didn't have any extras to give out or whatever the case may be, but I did manage to give a couple out, and that really led to the writing.
How did you find us at NYU? Not NYU, New York Writers Union, NWU. How did you find us?
I don't know. I just saw an email that said National Writers Union, and there was a possibility of reading out loud. And I said, wow, that might be nice. And so I tried it a couple of times, and I really liked it. I had already been in a writers group, but it wasn't really to publish anything in that writing. It was just to help each other to better our writing.
Okay.
And so I've been trying to stay with it.
And what I find interesting about you is you grew up around the Santa Maria religion, and everybody's like, well, what's the Santa Maria religion? What do they do? What do they do? It is, I will read my audience here a little bit about what I saw on Wiki, is an hold on here, is an Afro-Caribbean religion based on Yoruba beliefs and Catholicism. They kind of blend all that in. And now, tell me, like, you did read a poem before, and it was like a very chanting poem, and people were doing stuff, and you grew up in that environment, correct?
Correct. My parents were both practitioners of spiritualism, which is close to Santeria, but it's not the same thing. And so it would involve individuals who could almost get into a trance-like state, as both of my parents were able to do. And then people would come to them and share their cares and their worries or their illnesses or their problems, their love lives and stuff like that, and basically ask for an intercession, a review, almost a cleansing as well. So that's more what I grew up with, and that's where I wrote that poem called "Unique."
Yes, yes.
So
is that what you're going to read now?
I'd like to.
Oh, I'd love to hear it.
Okay, it's called "Unique." A room lit only with candles, a round table centered in place, people seated around in a circle, praying together in a choir chant. Santa María, Madre de Dios, ora por nosotros ahora. People seated round in circle, praying, intoning in choir chant. Y a la hora de nuestra muerte, the table in the middle with a bowl of holy water, mother and father praying in chant, father talking odd, smoking a cigar, blowing smoke over every direction. People raising voices, wailing choir chant, Santa Maria, Madre de Dios. Father swaying into rising chorus, lifting arms overhead, forward, overhead, forward, overhead, forward, bringing all to the bowl, tapping it in the bowl. Seated by the window, I stare, moving slightly to the choir chant, por nosotros, ahora y a la hora. Edging forward, my toes touch the floor. Everyone's eyes are closed, yet all see. Dad says, I see a white bird behind my son, wings spread wide and full, protects him, wards off all evil. I turn around, look behind me, excited to see my big white bird. Shadows of the choir swing. Where, Dad? Where's the bird? The choir stopped chanting. All stopped swaying. The eyes all open. Mom and Dad woke up. My eyes were open. I did not see.
Beautiful. Wow. Wow. I love that. See, I told everybody he was very talented and gifted.
Thank you so much.
Listen, If somebody wants to reach you, if any of the people watching here want to reach you and ask you questions, where can they do that?
They can do it by email.
Mhm.
My name is Henry, Henry, Arce, Arce, at msn.com.
Okay,
And,
get that Henry Arce at msm.com. And
or on
Arce
Facebook, I do have a page on Facebook as well with my name.
under Henry Arce,
Right?
ARCE.
E. Mhm.
And also, oh, the last question I have for you, what would you tell some people who want to start writing? You have any advice?
I would say write one word.
Write one word.
Write one word, and you're on your way. You just got to do that. You just got to stay with one word, and sometimes the words won't even come, but they do, because I think we all have stories to tell.
I think we do too.
Yes.
Thank you for spending time with us here today, Henry. This has been a really wonderful interview, and I'm sure everybody's going to pick up the anthology to read your work.
Great.
See you
Thank
later.
you so much. I'm so happy to
Bye-bye.
be here with you. Bye-bye.